For over a century, diesel has been the beating heart of America's economy. From the 18-wheelers hauling food across thousands of miles, to construction equipment building cities, to pickup trucks powering rural towns, diesel has always been the backbone of daily life. But now, that foundation is being shaken to its core. A sweeping diesel ban, championed by regulators and environmental agencies, threatens to upend everything we thought we knew about transportation. The announcement has sent shockwaves through the trucking industry. Drivers, mechanics, and logistics companies are all facing the same terrifying question. What happens when diesel is no longer allowed to keep America moving? Already, trucking forums and industry groups are filled with anger, confusion, and fear, because this isn't just about engines or fuel. This is about jobs, prices, and the fragile supply chain that touches every American household. To grasp the scale of the problem, consider this. Nearly 72% of all freight in the United States is moved by trucks, and almost every one of them runs on diesel. If those trucks stop, even for a week, grocery store shelves would empty, construction projects would halt, and gas stations would see lines stretching for miles. And yet, regulators insist the diesel era must end, pushing forward with aggressive timelines that the trucking industry calls impossible to meet. The backlash is already building. Independent truckers, the men and women who own their rigs and depend on every mile for survival, are warning of bankruptcy. Fleet operators are staring at billions in costs to transition, and unions are quietly whispering about walkouts if the mandates push forward. The stage is set for a collision between government policy and the very workers who keep the nation's economy alive. What started as an environmental push is quickly spiraling into an economic disaster, and America's truckers are preparing to revolt. To understand why regulators are pushing so aggressively against diesel, you have to look at the bigger picture. For years, environmental agencies and lawmakers have argued that diesel is a dirty fuel, a major contributor to air pollution, greenhouse gas emissions, and public health issues. Diesel exhaust contains fine particles linked to asthma, heart disease, and lung cancer, and for decades, it has been in the crosshairs of clean air advocates. California has been the spearhead of this movement. The state has already announced plans to ban the sale of new diesel trucks in just a few years, forcing all heavy-duty vehicles toward electric or hydrogen alternatives. And what California does, many other states tend to follow. That means what starts on the West Coast often becomes a national policy within a decade. But here's the problem. While the intentions might be rooted in environmental concerns, the execution is detached from reality. Lawmakers and regulators are writing rules on paper without considering the practical consequences. The technology simply isn't ready. Electric semi-trucks cost up to 3 times more than diesel rigs, can't travel long distances without charging, and rely on a nationwide charging network that doesn't even exist yet. Hydrogen, even further away, with fueling stations nearly impossible to find outside of a few test markets. Despite these glaring obstacles, the diesel ban is being sold to the public as an inevitable transition. Officials promise cleaner air, safer communities, and a future free of dependence on fossil fuels. But behind the polished speeches and press conferences, industry insiders are shaking their heads. For them, the reality is far harsher. Massive costs, untested technology, and timelines that will cripple the trucking industry before solutions are actually viable. What's more, lobbyists for green tech companies and automakers stand to make billions from this shift. While truckers face bankruptcy, corporations developing electric fleets and infrastructure are lining up for government subsidies. It's a classic case of politics over practicality, where those at the top cash in, while working-class drivers carry the burden. The diesel ban isn't just about cleaner air. It's about power, money, and who gets left behind in the so-called green revolution. And as this push gains momentum, America's truckers are starting to realize that they may be the ones sacrificed in the process. If you want to understand the real consequences of America's diesel ban, look no further than the truckers themselves. These are the men and women who keep the country moving, delivering food to grocery stores, fuel to gas stations, parts to factories, and medicine to hospitals. Without them, the shelves go empty, and the economy grinds to a halt. But under the new policies, truckers are being pushed into a corner. A brand new diesel semi costs around $180,000. An electric semi? Try $400,000 to $500,000. Even with government subsidies, small owner-operators, the backbone of the trucking industry, simply can't afford that. Many of these drivers operate on razor-thin margins, scraping by on a few cents of profit per mile. For them, switching fleets isn't an option. It's bankruptcy, And then there's the problem of infrastructure. An electric truck might be fine for short-haul city routes, but long-haul drivers cover 500 to 700 miles a day. Current EV trucks struggle to cover even half that distance on a single charge. Stopping for hours to recharge would destroy delivery schedules and pile up costs. Imagine a line of semis waiting at one of the few charging stations in the middle of the night while their refrigerated cargo spoils. That's not progress, that's chaos. Logistics companies are warning that this will drive shipping rates through the roof. If trucking becomes more expensive, everything you buy, from groceries to electronics to construction materials, will cost more. Inflation is already hitting American families hard, and this diesel ban could pour gasoline on the fire. Truckers themselves are not staying quiet. Across online forums and trucking communities, frustration is boiling over. Drivers say they feel targeted, abandoned, and ignored by lawmakers who don't understand the reality of the road. For many, it feels like a deliberate attempt to force them out of business in favor of big corporate fleets that can absorb the costs. And here's the scary part. The trucking industry is not just another sector of the economy. It's the circulatory system of America. If truckers can't move goods affordably, the entire supply chain collapses. We're not talking about some distant future problem. We're talking about food shortages, higher prices, and supply chain breakdowns, all within a matter of years if this ban goes into effect as planned. When you push an entire industry to the breaking point, something eventually snaps. And right now, America's truckers are reaching that breaking point. For decades, these men and women have endured long hours, low pay, and tough conditions, all while being the invisible backbone of the U.S. economy. But with the looming diesel ban, they feel betrayed. And when truckers revolt, the whole country feels it. We've already seen hints of what's to come. Across social media, trucking groups are openly discussing strikes, slowdowns, and coordinated protests. The message is simple: no trucks, no America. And it's true. Within 72 hours of a nationwide trucking shutdown, grocery stores would run out of food, gas stations would run dry, and hospitals would struggle to stock critical supplies. It's not speculation. It's a fact. Truckers have that much power. Politicians pushing the diesel ban seem to believe that the transition will be smooth, that truckers will quietly adapt. But history tells a different story. In 1973, during the oil crisis, independent truckers staged massive protests over fuel prices, blocking highways and shutting down freight corridors. The government had to step in quickly to avoid total chaos. Now imagine a similar revolt, but on a national scale, not over fuel prices, but over the right to even operate their trucks. The anger is already boiling over. Many truckers say they feel like scapegoats for climate policy, forced to shoulder the cost of going green, while Wall Street and big corporations continue to pollute at scale. Others warn that small towns and rural communities, heavily dependent on diesel trucking, will be left completely stranded. For them, this isn't just about economics. It's about survival. If these frustrations erupt into strikes or blockades, the U.S. economy could face its most severe supply chain crisis since the pandemic. Only this time, it wouldn't be caused by global events. It would be homegrown, a crisis created by America's own policies. And the longer Washington ignores the voices of truckers, the closer we move to that tipping point. Make no mistake, a diesel ban doesn't just threaten jobs. It threatens the very stability of America's supply chain. And the people who keep that chain moving are about ready to slam on the brakes. The diesel ban isn't just another policy debate. It's a gamble with the foundation of America's economy. Every can of food, every gallon of fuel, every package ordered online, at some point it rides on a diesel truck. To rip that away without a reliable replacement is like pulling the keystone from an arch. The entire structure risks collapse. Here's the reality: electric trucks are not ready. They cost nearly twice as much as diesel, their batteries take hours to charge, and charging stations across the country are almost non-existent. For long-haul routes, an electric truck isn't just inconvenient, it's impossible. Even if tomorrow every trucker agreed to switch, the infrastructure simply isn't there. And it won't be there for years, maybe even decades. Meanwhile, forcing diesel off the road risks a wave of bankruptcies. Independent owner-operators, who make up a huge share of America's trucking force, cannot afford a $400,000 electric rig. Many would have no choice but to quit. That means fewer trucks on the road, skyrocketing freight costs, and higher prices for everything from groceries to gasoline. In a country already battling inflation, the results could be catastrophic. But beyond the economics, there's a deeper issue: trust. Millions of working-class Americans feel ignored, steamrolled by elites who dictate policies without ever facing the consequences themselves. A diesel ban widens that divide. For many truckers, it feels like proof that their voices don't matter, that the system is rigged against them. And history shows that when enough people feel abandoned, unrest follows. The truth is, America cannot survive without its truckers. The shelves in stores don't fill themselves. The fuel pumps don't refill on their own. The heartbeat of the economy depends on diesel engines running day and night. Strip that away too quickly, and the nation faces not just a supply chain crisis, but a social one. In the coming years, the battle over diesel will test America's resilience like never before. Will leaders listen to the people who keep this country moving? Or will they drive policy straight into a disaster of their own making? One thing is certain, without truckers, America stops. And if this ban goes forward, that stop might come sooner than anyone expects.